We'd like to do another film song now, but from a different film. Because we've made two, you know. Who's that man on the light? Go away with that light, will you?
Coming up on Verse, Chorus, Verse, Part 3. Yes, it's the third part. We do it once a year, talking about the Beatles. That's next.
That means it's a new single. And it's a delightful ditty called Help. Help, I need somebody. Help, not just anybody. Help, you know I need someone. Help.
Welcome everybody to Verse, Chorus, Verse. I'm DL. Hope you're well. With me is Rachel, Plastic Soul Polio.
Oh, Rachel, that's not nice.
Bad kind. I mean, it depends. Sometimes you gotta hide your love away. How are you?
Good.
I feel like I haven't talked to you in a really long time.
Wasn't it just last week? We hung out?
Maybe. No, we skipped.
Did
you
we
were
skip?
inundated.
Oh.
You were not.
You were
in
overwhelmed.
the middle of a life crisis.
Yes.
Notice how I was polite and I didn't say midlife crisis.
David, James.
So how's it going?
There's just a lot. We're going into, for me at work, this week coming up is the busiest week that I will have at work the entire year, probably. This coming up week is Nuclear Science Week.
Is this when you do like the kid stuff?
Yes, but the lab is also hosting this year. And so there's all these other activities throughout the week. There's like a gala and there's tours. And so there's a lot of stuff going on. And so we're all...
So it moves?
Yeah, different
Is it different
labs.
lab put it on every year?
Yeah.
How many labs are there?
17.
So do you get to travel for the other ones?
I have never traveled for the other ones, no, personally.
Oh, you need a different position maybe.
I mean,
are they
that's
at
what
anywhere
she
cool?
said. There's one in Brookhaven in Long Island, which is great because it's near my family. So that one would be amazing.
Have fun.
It should be a blast. It will be really fun. It's just a lot of work going up to the week.
Save the planet.
We're changing the world's energy future and securing critical infrastructure.
One private jet at a time.
Hey, we don't take private jets. We fly coach.
Nothing is up with me ever. I'll tell you what. This is me in a nutshell. Super exciting. So I just worked like 28 days in a row or something like that.
That's insane.
And just like shit tons of travel and just wake up, forget where I am, don't know what day it is, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm home this weekend. It's the first time I've had like multiple days off. I bought a couple records. I got my drinks already. I got some food. I bought a PS5 and decided I was going to like make myself play a game for a couple days.
Good for you.
So I got all prepped for it last night and fell asleep at 6:30.
And then
didn't even take the PS5 out of the box. So that's
embarrassing.
That's me in a nutshell.
That's too bad.
We're talking about the Beatles.
Yeah, we are.
This is our third year. We are all the way up to 1965.
So slow going.
Give us a quick recap of your thoughts pre-65.
On my experience or on the Beatles themselves? Or both?
Yes.
Yes.
I will say that I think it was last year's episode, you seem to have been interested enough to where you retained a shit ton of things.
Yeah, that's very true. But there's also so much information. It makes it simultaneously super easy and super hard to study, because any question I have can be answered very quickly because there's so much information out there. But also because there is so much, it can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Even in just these first like handful of years that we've been going over, they lived a lifetime in the short period of time that they actually were making music, which is just incredible, that the amount that they did in such a short period of time.
You're touching on kind of one of my main points of this episode is some of the themes of the music they were coming out with at this time were themes similar to those that had been writing for 40 years.
Yeah.
And like these guys lived a few lifetimes in 2 years, basically.
And not that people aren't this way now. They are just drained for all of the blood that they have in their bodies. But I feel like part of the reason for that is that these guys were real musicians that really loved their work, that really wanted to experiment, improve, get better. But it was like their entire lives. Like when you look at, I mean, we're covering 1 year today, which is insanity. Like they did so much. And the reason that they were, I think, able to evolve the way they did is because this was their only focus in life, just making music.
Well, and the question at this point, you know what? I agree, but I have a different take on that.
Okay.
And we'll get there. It's going to be a hot take that some people aren't going to like. So we'll get there.
Okay.
We're talking about the Beatles. We're going to do this every year. We're kind of calling it Meet the Beatles. I've kind of realized this year that it's half insulting to Rachel because it makes it seem like she didn't know who the Beatles were.
No idea. Had not heard of them.
So 3 years ago, everybody, I was like, Rachel, you got to check out this band. They're called the Beatles.
Yeah.
It's one person who's been obsessed with the Beatles his whole life, and it's one person who has loved music her whole life, but didn't really do you're probably in the middle, right? You probably weren't like a eye roll, it's too popular, fuck it, I'm not going to listen to it.
Well, I don't think it's not like they were too popular because I wasn't around when they were too popular.
Yeah.
They got popular in the 60s. I was, a couple years from being born at that point.
Did your parents not like them?
Don't think that this kind of missed like my dad's prime time for listening to music. My dad was 14 when Woodstock happened, and that's the end of
How old's your
the Beatles.
Okay.
My he was very young when this was happening. So this would be like us being in early 80s, really into that kind of music. And I'm not personally. But so I did not hear this growing up. I knew it was around. I knew it was a thing. Obviously, Beatles music is used everywhere all the time. People are generally pretty familiar with it. Because I hadn't grown up with it, it wasn't something that was like tired or overplayed in my head, I guess.
And we've talked about it before. If it's your first time listening because you saw, I looked up Beatles podcasts and here you are. You can go back and you listen to the other ones. I'll just say it was really, really easy for me to love the Beatles at a young age because as ridiculous as it sounds, it was kind of half rebelling because my dad never listened to them and my mom hated them.
Yeah.
It's about the easiest rebellion I've ever.
Okay, we can bleep this out. How old is Elaine?
Fairly similar to your dad.
Okay, so that's kind of surprising.
Fairly close. But yeah, it was the same. It may be something similar. It's just my mom was like, literally, you could not walk 5 feet without hearing the Beatles for like 10 years. So she's like, fuck it. I can't. But anyway, that's what we're doing. We're talking about the Beatles. We are going in chronological order. And this year we have made it to 1965.
What a year.
Just like Rachel said, the amount of shit that they did this year.
Insane. It's
crazy. We'll talk about that and other things. But first, we got to talk about the most important part of the night. What are we drinking? What are you drinking?
I have so many drinks here.
Yay!
Because I've been sitting at my desk for a couple hours today, and so I have this morning's protein shake, which is half
last minute cram. That's what she said?
Yeah, that's what she said. Also water, mostly orange rain, a little bit of Malibu.
An orange rain and Malibu. What was the first thing? Just a protein shake.
Protein shake.
So nobody cares about the other stuff. What's the drink?
Oh, orange rain. You know the
this
energy
is the
drink?
Soda.
Yeah. It's like a Monster, Rockstar, sort of same thing. But there's an orange one that tastes like a creamsicle. I've drank this multiple times.
Okay. Are you a big Orange Rain fan? Rain, total body fuel. Oh God.
I'm not a huge. That's amazing. I'm not a huge energy drink person, but I just have like this coupon that's like free drinks or whatever. It was for a fundraiser, so I'm using them to get this drink repeatedly.
Okay. We're talking about the Beatles, so I've got to have my favorite drink. It's whiskey sour.
That's so fancy.
It's a double. I used only Elijah Craig this time. Not a fan. It's too sweet, and it's like way too sweet. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that it's bad. I should just say that
it's not for you.
I would need to formulate the other ingredients better toward the whiskey flavoring.
Sure.
So I need to add more lemon and more bitters and stuff for.
So you say you only used Elijah Craig. Do you usually put more than one kind of whiskey in there?
Great question, Rachel. The only time I've ever done a whiskey sour with Elijah Craig was a recipe from I don't remember where, and it called for half Elijah Craig, half Rittenhouse rye.
Interesting.
And that's really, really good. This time I did just Elijah Craig just to see. I wouldn't recommend it. Unless you like a really sweet whiskey sour, then hey, be all about it.
Okay.
I'm interested. I'm not being snarky. I'm legitimately interested to see if that's easily muted out. No, I'm hoping it is. It's got to be better than the clickies. I was not being sarcastic. I'm serious.
I know. I'm sorry that I feel like I need to be fucking with something at all times.
That's what she said. Rachel, what I'm going to do is, because I do the same thing when I'm at exhibitions.
Yeah.
I have trach ties.
Yeah.
I'll send you ties and instructions on how you're supposed to tie them. If you do it a bunch, you just start instead of popping, you just start randomly trying to tie it, and it's nice and quiet.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
I'll get you some crochet.
Appreciate you.
That's very rock and roll. All right. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All these fucking 70-year-olds that turn this on to listen to the Beatles. Pervs.
Yeah, perverts.
We are back. 1965 and the Beatles. A lot happened.
So much.
Infamous U.S. tour. The huge U.S. tour. I'm not talking dates. I'm talking size that nobody had seen even close to the likes of.
Yeah.
Back then. That's I know I have the number somewhere on
55,000.
my notes. You might. Thank you. That was a record, I think, until some sort of, like Metallica played in Germany for like 2 million people or something. So, but it was a record for a really, really long time. It wasn't that many dates, but it had, the New York show, the Hollywood Bowl, Shea Stadium being, I think, maybe the biggest, the most popular concert to
that was the biggest one.
They also did the UK tour, which was 18 shows in England, Scotland, and Wales. That was their last UK tour. They never did a UK tour again, which is crazy.
That's insane.
And then we will talk about the rest of what they did. We aren't really going to go too much into the tours because we kind of covered that in the last one, right? Beatlemania.
Yeah. They also did Europe for a little bit on the same year.
65. Let's go. You know what? I'll do my hot take now because I want to cover a lot of the stuff that they were into at the time. In our last episode, we talked about Bob Dylan becoming a huge influence for them.
Yeah.
Including the lore states, supposedly, that Dylan introduced them to pot, which I don't think is actually true, but it's fun.
I'm sure they had never seen it before.
That ended up being a massive influence on this year's work.
Yeah.
Because boy, oh boy, did they like smoking the weed this year.
They did.
Dylan at this point had become kind of the big influence for at least one of them, probably two of them. And not just because of pot, but, for other reasons. It's insane to think of, but one of the big things that stands out to me about this year is how ruined they were at this point by their fame.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it when we get to one specific album, but these guys were alcoholics. They were high all the time. Half of them were miserable.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but half of them. They were kind of like mentally these washed up musicians at 25 after being a band for like 5 years. So that's fun. 4 EPs. They had 3 singles this year. They recorded the 2 albums that we will obviously talk about. Got a bunch of awards. They got married. They're getting divorces. They're getting in fights. They're writing songs about other women. Okay, if it sounds ridiculous to call this a Beatles era, but to me, the like Help, Rubber Soul 1965 portion of the Beatles is an era. Yeah. And this is my least favorite era.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is. I want to get that out of the way now because obviously I don't think anything they came out with was bad. Please don't get mad, listeners. I'm not saying Rubber Soul or Help is bad. I'm not saying anything like that. There was a bit of jade there to go along with the halfway point of the Beatles where they were still the boys in the black suits that were clean cut bopping with the kids.
Yeah.
And then half on LSD playing sitars,
Right.
washed up and fighting with their ex-wife because of their 19-year-old girlfriend sort of stuff that happens with rock stars. What stood out for you, not from a project standpoint, the Beatles, but from them more personally in regards to 1965?
Well, I mean, to disregard part of your confines of that question, the music, like Help in general, which I mean, we're going to go over the album and the movie, is the first of like them kind of expressing like how overwhelming this whole situation is. And so you really get to know more through the music, like what's going on in their heads. Because this album is Rubber Soul is written mostly by them, or entirely by them, but they're getting to write more music. And so more of their actual personalities, more of what's going on in their lives is being told to us. I don't think a lot of people really listen to the lyrics.
Oh, not at all.
And going through these songs that I've heard 100 times over the last how many years, reading the lyrics that go along with them, there's a lot more going on than just bopping, English guys playing a little bit of rock music.
Well, Help, the album Help, title song was written by John Lennon.
Yeah.
Basically I have his quote here. The whole Beatles thing was just beyond comprehension. I was eating and drinking like a pig, and I was fat as a pig, dissatisfied with myself, and subconsciously I was crying for help.
Yeah.
When Help came out, I was actually crying out for help. Most people think it's just a fast rock and roll song. I didn't realize it at the time. I just wrote the song because I was commissioned to write it for the movie. But later, I knew I really was crying out for help. Mm-hmm. It was my fat Elvis period.
Oh. Yeah.
But he taught in that interview in 1980, Lennon talks, it's so weird because he mentions multiple times how overweight he thought he was and how you could tell that he did not think much of himself at this part of his life. But when you think of the song Help, you're completely right. Upbeat, fast, happy sounding song that you can go your whole life just being like, God, that's like fun to fucking dance to. But then you listen to the lyrics and it's like, God damn, like, that sucks.
As outsiders, we look at these people and think, oh, they have all this fame, they have all this money, they must be like the happiest people in the entire world. They have this expectation to live up to and to make people happy and to produce all this stuff that people love. And that becomes, their bar. It's real fucking stressful. And if you're not perfect, if you feel like you've gained a couple pounds, if you feel like you're not putting out the best music in the entire world, then you're a failure. And that is a lot.
Well, and their whole persona, the Beatles, super happy lads bouncing around, partying with everybody. And, we love everybody and want to make everybody feel good about themselves and look at our happy asses in these movies and stuff like that. And no person is going to be like that every day of their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you watch the movie?
Yeah.
Help. What were your thoughts?
That one and the previous one, they're both just so goofy, so slapstick. They're just really entertaining and they're so fucking silly. They're just, I loved Monty Python, The Flying Circus. And so this was a couple years before that show started, and it has the same vibes to it. Like, it's just ridiculous and it's easy to watch. I mean, it's very smart marketing. First of all, you're a movie, and it's the Taylor Swift must have gotten all of her tips from these guys. One, you have a movie where they are traveling all around the world. So people from all around the world can be like, oh, this is when the Beatles were in my country, hanging out with my people. So that's a smart move. And you're showing like these inflated personalities of these guys, which are just fun and happy. And so you're getting to know them, and people want to know their stars, but they want to know the good side of them. And this is showing that. This isn't showing that they were high all the time, that they were drinking, that they were, all the bad things that were going on.
I'll preface this with how much I love Hard Day's Night. I think it's an amazing, hilarious movie.
Yeah.
I think Help is such a terrible fucking movie. I think it's so bad.
So many people did. And I thought it was I thought it was so funny and
It
so silly.
I forgot about it. I totally forgot. And then I watched it like a week ago. It takes you like 10 minutes to even figure out what the fuck is going on. Like what, like, so, it's Ringo that's wearing the sacrificial ring. And
see, I thought this had more of a through line than Hard Day's Night did. So I feel like it was a little easier to follow.
Oh, it did. But
and it got started faster.
For me, I think the reason is that in Hard Day's Night, it is much more of a Monty Python-ish. It's just them running around being goofy. And there's no real form of what is this actually about? Like something about Paul's grandfather or something like that. Help has the story. It's about whatever, some Eastern sacrificial ring that fucking Ringo somehow ended up with on his hand, and they're trying to get it off. That's the point of this. That's the whole movie.
Yeah.
If you really watch it, Paul and John are never in it. They talk like, how many lines does John have in it?
Yeah.
When you put the two and two together about he was talking about how he was fat and he was drunk and he fucking hated himself. Like he probably didn't want to be in front of the camera. He probably had no, like, Ringo was the only one that really was interested in making the actual movie. It's just it's so weird. It's such a weird plot movie to go with the soundtrack that is Help.
And a lot of people, most people did not like it as much as they liked Hard Day's Night. And I completely understand that.
Hard Day's Night's better.
That's fine. You can like that one better. They both have their own. I like both for different reasons. They're like kids, you know, all my kids.
What I do like about Help, what I love about the album, besides it's just a great fucking album, this was one of the kind of turning points of their music. This, along with obviously Rubber Soul, which we'll talk about next. But in this one, this is when they started to do little electric piano. They have the flute. They have the tone pedal on what the George song. Which one is it? I Need You.
Yes.
They were fucking around with stuff. The orchestra on Yesterday, which wasn't really a thing back then.
Yeah.
Yesterday. The most covered song ever.
Is that right? I believe that.
That's a lot. The other thing that happened while
that was silly. It's the most covered song ever. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
It is.
The other thing that happened at this time, the LSD. Do you know the backstory?
No.
So they are out to dinner in 65 with a dentist, their friend who's a dentist, who slips them LSD in their coffee because, you know, why not? I think that that's much more evident in their future work, but you do start to hear a couple of them are starting to experiment with their thought process in music with songs like I Need You, or, you know, the orchestrals in Yesterday, or, I mean, we're obviously just talking about the music now, but a song like Ticket to Ride that has this bit of a Middle Eastern guitar feel. George is slowly starting to get really into the kind of Middle Eastern sitar vibey stuff that he would end up obsessing over. But what were your initial thoughts on, like, when you sat down and you listened to Help, both compared to the earlier stuff and just on its own?
I mean, compared to the earlier stuff, like you said, seems like kind of a turning point to where you can hear their experimentation. It's like they found the closet full of instruments and were like, hey guys, let's just see what we can do. Let's just find some noises to put into songs. And it's amazing. Like, I really liked this album. And I liked that it's more them. We've talked about, you know, the first couple albums were like a couple songs them, most songs other people, and then it slowly, you know, some
covers. Yeah.
If you just listen to the album, you don't really know, and you're not looking at the lyrics and you're like, this rocks. This is just a little different from the other Beatles stuff. But if you're sitting down, you're looking at the lyrics, you're really listening to the music, you can go, yeah, they were probably on drugs. Like you really can hear the changes from their earlier stuff to this stuff, to where they're like not these good old English boys anymore. And they're like, you know, doing whatever they want to, not whatever they want to do, but more of what they want to do, but kind of in a sneaking it in kind of fashion.
There are a lot of aspects to that were the reasons for it. Because this is, at this point, they can't go outside.
Yeah.
They can't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cute movie when they're like the ski. I love the ski scene. I love the scene. I love the,
Yeah.
that stuff's amazing. I think it's so fun, and they're doing the outfits and the sledding and everything. You can still feel that, maybe I'm just projecting, but it just seems like it's grinding on them. The music is kind of starting to convey that. And I'm not just with Help, but you know, a song like Ticket to Ride is the first time, like they would always sing like She Loves You is, you know, sad song, but it's super upbeat. It's super radio poppy. Ticket to Ride is a sad song.
Yeah.
It's catchy and the hook's great.
Mm-hmm.
Ringo's doing that crazy weird drum beat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Lennon is really, really starting to figure out the tortured artist thing.
Yeah. I mean, lyrically, they are really taking a turn into where their sound is very slowly evolving. Their lyrics, like I said, if you sit down with them, you're like, ugh, there's something going on with these guys, and they're not like chipper as they used to be, I guess.
Yes. With that though, with Help, one of the things that starts happening this year to me is that where Lennon has always been the primary, much better songwriter, it really starts to change. Not change. I shouldn't say that. McCartney catches up to him. That's what I'll say. Yeah. McCartney starts to figure out his formula and realizes like he has this ear for writing amazing pop. And so he's writing these songs like I've Just Seen a Face. And I know Yesterday he'd been tinkering with for years, but he comes out with Yesterday. What's the other one on Help?
The Night Before.
The Night Before. Yeah, that's great. Another Girl too. Like he really starts to figure his shit out. I still think Lennon is Ticket to Ride and Dizzy Miss Lizzy and things like that. Well, no, sorry, not Dizzy Miss Lizzy. Sorry. Yes, not sorry. David, cut that out.
Get it together.
You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. That's the one I was thinking of. You Got to Hide Your Love Away. Oh. Like that's
right.
I mean,
so good.
Lennon is just kind of in a stratosphere, and that is really where the Bob Dylan influence is. Huge. But what I love about it is Dylan had his own sound because he was Dylan. What the Beatles were able to do and what they would do more of in later albums is they took a lot of these aspects of Dylan and they were able to, because they were a full band that was extremely talented, it's like Dylan with 5-part harmonies. Yeah. It's like Dylan with 4 incredible musicians. Because you're a pretty big Dylan person, aren't you?
So Dylan was something that I did grow up listening to. My dad was obsessed with Bob Dylan. So
Smart man.
Listening to You've Got to Hide Your Love Away, I mean, it could have very easily have had Bob Dylan singing lead vocals, and I would have been like, this is a Bob Dylan song. There's a lot of songs that are, it's like that, if you've ever heard of those gross flavored waters, taste like the truck like ran over some limes or somebody was screaming strawberry from the other room. Like it has just like a very small touch of Dylan on a lot of it. But this song is like very Dylan inspired.
Not just pot, everybody.
Not just pot.
Not just pot.
But Dylan gave them the pot.
So kind of, maybe.
So Dylan twice.
Yes. There's not much else that I want to cover on Help. The other thing at this point in time that I would like to just mention is how fucked the labels had made the releases. The Capitol had completely screwed everything up. The North American release was literally basically just a soundtrack. It just took the first 7 songs from the film and slapped it on.
Well, and especially at this time, and we've talked about this in the past, how a lot of people just didn't know how to compile an album at the time.
True. True.
And they just kind of like threw a bunch of songs together, not really thinking about placement or how they interacted with each other.
And the labels were also very strict to the point that it was like the European album has 13 songs, US albums have to have 11. That's like that's how little it's art. and these people treated it very formulaic.
Yeah.
Which worked out okay for a band like the Beatles, just because, like you said, and it's a good point, so many of their albums were just a hodgepodge of shit thrown on it that they had written.
Yeah.
It wasn't them in a studio and saying, okay, we're gonna work an album out. It was just shit they'd done, and it just happened to be great because every song that they wrote was really fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else on Help except for the semaphore that they're doing is not actually spelling out help.
I'm just looking at that right now.
They
on the
originally
cover,
did help,
because it has
but it didn't look
flags.
right. So it's like AMSR or something like. It's not AMSR.
What is it?
I don't know.
NUJV.
I should know that. I was a signalman for a year.
I thought of you the other day. I was at the Spirit Halloween and there was a sailor costume. And I was like, I wonder if David still has a sailor costume.
I have one of them. Coveralls.
Ooh. Into it. Either way.
Let's take a break. We will
Cut
come
that.
back. All those Navy boys out there, you're welcome. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
You've got this. You're very good at editing.
All right, we are back. We're just solving next year's problems, everybody.
Yeah, we are.
We are done with
great.
Help. Let's go to 1965 alsos. Rubber Soul. Rubber Soul. Recorded in October and November. I think it was like less than a month that it was recorded, released at the very, very end. A cool, crisp,
Just in
34
time for
minutes
Christmas.
long, produced by George Martin. What are your initial thoughts on, what were your thoughts on Rubber Soul?
Loved it. Again, this is just another step further into their experimentation. There's like some sitar, there's some more piano stuff, and there's, again, like, it's like they broke into the closet of all the instruments and were like, I bet we could figure out how to play these. Lyrically, I don't think it's as sad, I guess, or depressing as the previous album.
Nope.
When you're listening to the lyrics. But the lyrics do get better. They do get more introspective, which is awesome, and I think helps sell records. I do think that the title is funny. Rubber Soul being a play on plastic soul, lacking authenticity.
You got my joke at the beginning then.
I did. Where they're becoming more of themselves and less of like 60s
Singing
music
black
product.
people's music. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
But making it white.
Well, that was their thing, is they would call it plastic soul, because it's like, yeah, we know what we're doing. We know that we're playing African American soul music, and their words were basically like, we're bad at it compared to them, but people love it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that most of you weird music obsessors, I'm sure, know. Some of you don't. Rubber Soul was supposedly the massive catalyst of Brian Wilson becoming insane. Brian Wilson basically listened to that album and decided that he had to write what would eventually be Pet Sounds. I don't know if you want to blame Rubber Soul for what became of Brian Wilson. You can, I think the healthy way to look at it, the way that we like to look at it, is the Beach Boys and Beatles had this very healthy,
going back and forth,
not even
influence
not
each other.
competition, but like look at how fucking good they are doing this. We have to do better kind of thing.
But they had
I love that.
very different sounds. I don't feel like they were singing to the same groups of people. You know what I mean? And so I don't think it was necessarily bad. And I think it was a very healthy competition, if you want to call it that. If you want to call it a competition, because they just kept improving every album. They kept getting better and growing more.
This was the album that Capitol really butchered. Made this, and I mean, like, they literally made really shitty vinyl.
Oh.
Because they were selling so much that they
needed to get more out.
Just started pumping out these really shitty 45s.
Yeah.
Rubber Soul came out in the US at the same time that it did in Britain, but Capitol only had 10 songs. They left out Drive My Car, they left out Nowhere Man, they left out What Goes On, and they left out If I Needed Someone. They brought in I've Just Seen a Face, and It's Only Love from the UK's Help. But really, really crazy shit.
They kind of they took a lot of the good out.
Yeah, they did.
It was still an okay album. It was still a good album, but
yeah, it did. It did okay.
It did okay. Yeah, they sold a couple. It's fine.
I do agree with you. I think Rubber Soul, and it's not like we're fucking reinventing the wheel here. A lot of people do consider this the kind of turning point for the Beatles to go from pop rockers to something other.
Yeah.
Incorporating way more folk, incorporating the sitar, the harmonium, different pedal waves and things like that.
I don't know like entirely like the stranglehold that their management had on them, but this is definitely the most like, obviously the most like them that we've gotten so far to this point. With all their experimentation, but it also with their experimentation, like it definitely, like this is an album that you can listen to passively and go, they were on drugs. Like you don't have to dig too deep into it. And it being the 60s, like, you know, that's just what people were doing. But I feel like they were at this point in their career that they're still putting out stuff that people like for sure. Yes. But they're really delving into the 60s and being more of themselves. You can see it in their hair too. Like their hair starts to get different. Like it's not all this very clean cut thing. And the, you know,
they're wearing like
they're not
leather suede jackets and
but again, not so much music product, but more of who they are as people and who they are as musicians is coming out. Yeah.
It's the first album that you can start to feel the bohemian side of the Beatles. Yeah. Which really feels, you know, you compare it to Help, which really felt like this existential crisis sort of thing. And this feels like they're starting to be okay with who they are again. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like a song like Nowhere Man can be seen as depressing. If you read the lyrics and you listen to the music, which it's incredible. And if you love bands like Yes or Boston or things, I think that songs like this are when the Beatles really, really start to become an influence for future rock. But songs like this they're going from like the 25-year-old I'm overwhelmed to I'm using everything I've been through to become wiser.
It's like they changed their drugs. Like
that's so much better.
Like they're like
you're
they've just
right.
calmed down a little bit. They're just more like, David, less LSD, more pot.
They stopped drinking and they started doing acid. Okay, you're absolutely right.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
God damn it, that's really good. This is another one too where McCartney comes out with songs like You Won't See Me, Michelle, I'm Looking Through You, which I'm Looking Through You, when you're talking about mid to late 60s pop rock, to me, that is the sort of song that Brian Wilson probably heard and was like, oh, fuck. Like, these guys are on a whole other level. I feel like this is when I'm still much more in the Lennon party. I am in the Lennon party. Yeah, you know what pisses me off?
What?
Is I'm going to the track listing and I'm accidentally looking at, and I've done it twice.
The North American.
And this is how I know that North America fucked it up, is because I'm looking at their track listing. I'm like, what is this? Yeah. Why would you start it with I've Just Seen a Face when Drive My Car is right fucking there? Good God.
Like, and especially when Help started out with Help. You're just like, I'm fucking just diving right into this.
Oh, one of the best blues rock songs ever, Drive My Car. Yeah. That's shit. We don't
where I should put it in the garbage. Let's not even put it on the album.
Yeah. That song,
idiots.
Like, nobody Drive My Car.
Who is it?
Women
Who's
can't
in charge
drive.
of this?
What is this?
That's true. That's probably why they took it off.
Look, it's fucking Rubber Soul, and I have a hot take that we'll get into, but I think we're gonna have a lot to go over in the awards and categories. we hit the big highlights of Rubber Soul, everybody. It was the pivotal album. Songs like Michelle. That's what I'll say about this era is as much as it might be my least favorite, which that's like saying if 5 people gave me $1 million.
Yeah.
It's like, well, my least favorite of them is this person. Like,
right.
I'm still a pretty big fan of that person. A lot of the music from this was pretty underrated. Nowhere Man, some real serious underrated stuff. Even The Word, which I don't like The Word really.
Yeah.
Just it's not really my jam. But the shit that Lennon wrote and that they were doing in that song is fucking incredible.
Should we get into awards and
Any
categories?
final thoughts on? Let's do it. Thanks, Rach. I want to say that we can try to make it a good question every time, but it does get more and more ridiculous as time goes on.
Yeah.
So I'll just ask it. Are the Beatles overrated?
Well, I was talking to Vince Polio this morning, and he was talking about how much he hates the Beatles and how much he thinks they're overrated.
Wow.
And then I got into defending them, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to win you over, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But what I did tell him is that I feel like a lot of people view the Beatles as the first boy band, and they don't really appreciate the actual music. They don't sit down and listen and understand how truly talented these boys were.
Yeah.
And so overrated, overexposed maybe is
totally
a good term, but I don't think overrated. I don't think that as many people love them was wrong or is wrong, because they are incredibly talented musicians.
It's very surprising to me because your brother is such a punk guy.
Yeah.
And anything punk has stuff like She Loves You or I Want to Hold Your Hand to thank for that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Really. Whatever, Vince. This is the first time I've ever disagreed with him.
Well, won't be the
I've
last.
never even met him. Very similar. I think the other thing too that you spoke to about them being seen as these boy bandish look, we're running around having fun stuff.
Yeah.
The other thing that I don't think that they either know or don't think of is how fucking hard these guys worked at music.
Right.
How much they played when they were young. When they were in studio, the amount that they would, like, all these guys did ever was play. That's all they did. Every day, every night. They just wanted to fucking play. What's the saying that you have to put in your 50,000 hours or what is it to be great at something? You have to put in 7 hours or
I think it's 10,000 hours. I don't think it's 50.
Well, they put in 50.
They put in 50.
That's my thing. They're not overrated or underrated, which is what I was gonna say because I'm almost done with my double.
Good job.
The John Prine Award, Rachel, thus far, or this year, or whatever. What are your favorite Beatles lyrics?
So before we go into my favorite, I need to Google something real fast because I need to pull up the lyrics.
Is it Run for Your Life? When John Lennon's singing about how if you're with another man, I'm going to murder you?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good one. But Norwegian Wood, did you catch, at the end of the song, because she's talking about like, she's in her room, Norwegian Wood. It's beautiful, isn't it? And then he talks about, so I lit a fire. Isn't it good, Norwegian Wood? Did he set the room on fire as he was leaving? Because that's kind of the vibe that I got.
That's one of the big talking points of this song is this song about like fucking pyromania?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that he's talking about lighting a spliff. I think he's talking about lighting a joint.
Oh, and just like sitting back and admiring the wood?
I
maybe?
mean, if you're high, I mean, shit, that's some nice wood, bro.
Sure.
Norwegian.
Okay. Well, I like your perspective more than my arson perspective.
Personally. But that's much more fun.
It is.
Like to think that John was just like, this chick is so fucking annoying. I'm just going to burn this goddamn
Or she was mad that she bounced. He like woke up and he's like, where the fuck did she go? I'm going to let her set her house on fire.
Yeah, I was about to say John doesn't seem like that type.
Maybe.
But, I mean, he seems like a very obsessive lover.
Sure.
Like I could see that dude starting a fire if push came to shove. He did it. Okay, everybody, he did it.
Yeah. My actual, like, from these two albums is where I picked my favorite lyrics. And Help. It was from Help. When I was younger, so much younger than before. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Mine is, and I kind of did the same thing you did. It's basically the entire song of Hide Your Love Away. To this day, I don't know exactly, obviously none of us do. We don't know exactly the circumstances he's singing about, but just the thought of whether it's because the person has said that they don't want anything to do with them anymore, whether it's because they've decided that it's unhealthy for them or whatever, the way that he was able to explain what it felt like to have to not love a person that you love, it's really, really fucking good. It's how do you not like the Beatles? That's insane.
Yeah, Vince.
The Greta Van Fleet Award, the most obvious influence. I already said a couple of the, this is when to me you start to hear some of that 70s, Yes, Boston, some of that sort of stuff. We talked about Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys, which would definitely be the biggest one, I think, at this point. Did you have anybody else?
The Byrds?
Byrds is a great one. And I think in turn, much like the Beach Boys, I think in turn, the Byrds started to influence the Beatles.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where those bands were so good and so new that they were starting to influence each other, because the amount of like Clapton, George Harrison got fucking obsessed with Clapton, even after he fucked his wife, and still. You know what we should do for the end of our Beatles? This isn't about the wife fucking. This more has to do with your brother. You should make a playlist for your brother.
Yeah.
Actually listen to these songs.
Yeah.
And then tell me that you still think they suck. And then you just report back to us and just see what he says.
I think that's a great idea. Be prepared. Vince Folio.
Top 5 favorite Beatles songs so far. I have 8.
I have 7.
I have not. Okay, good. I feel less bad then.
It's so hard because there's getting to be so much stuff, but there's still classic stuff that you can't take off your list.
Exactly. So then I'll give my 8 and 7. My number 8 is Ticket to Ride. Amazing. We already talked about it. Fantastic song. And my number 7 is Saw Her Standing There. Like you were saying, it's a classic. It's one of those things that has just been stuck in my head for 30 years.
Sure.
Rachel, what's your number 7 favorite Beatles song?
My number 7 is Michelle.
Oh, wow. Great pick. I already talked about it.
That's a good pick. Yeah, you did.
You just like it because there's French in it.
No, it was actually... You just
like it because you're pretentious.
I am pretentious. But...
How that McDonald's do.
Exactly. I picked it because it was different, I think. Like, it stood out as a different vibe on the album than the rest of the songs. But it's a classic. It's a good one. Everybody loves it.
Very much agree with you.
Yeah.
What is your number 6?
My number 6 is Norwegian Wood.
I'm glad that's on your list because it's not on mine.
Good. So
but it deserves to be on there.
I picked this one because it is. So this is top 5 songs. So you didn't say best and you didn't say favorite. These songs are combined in my head of best and favorite. So it's not one or the other.
I like it.
So it's songs that I absolutely know are very musically good, but also in my brain, I like them because they're cool songs. So Norwegian Wood is one that really stood out to me as we're evolving, we're trying new things. I can hear a sitar, I can hear other sounds on there that aren't like guitar, bass, drums, Well,
and the harmonies are very like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and it's very it's a lot more of the folkiness that the Beatles would start to influence. Yeah. It's an amazing song. It is. My number 6, God, it feels really weird to have it. You know what?
Are you going to move it?
Actually, I am. I'm switching my 6 and my 2.
Oh, geez. That's a big step.
That's how off I think I was.
It's just, this was really hard.
It's what she said, and it's true. Which is the weirdest part about it is that makes my number 6 song In My Life.
Ooh.
Which is, so here's the thing about In My Life. I think that there must be, this is me fully admitting that there has to be a little bit of like I've heard it too many times.
Mm-hmm.
If studying for this, it had been the first time hearing this song, it would probably be my number 1 or 2.
Sure.
But it's like, how many like fucking senior year videos have I watched with this song behind it? Where it's like,
right. Yeah.
It's like this and Freshman by the Verve.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you have that one on the list because that's not even on my list anywhere.
Really?
Yeah. So it's good that we're having like very different, because we get to talk about more songs.
It surprises me. I would have thought In My Life. No, because it's pretty fucking slow.
Yeah.
You
That's
don't like
fine.
the slow beats.
You'd be surprised when we hit number 2 on my list.
Would I? When we get to yesterday? My number 5, it's never gonna, I don't think it's gonna leave my list ever. I can't because it's got my favorite guitar solo of all time on it, and it's Hard Day's Night.
Oh,
It's
that's
my
not
number
on my
1
list
Beatles.
either.
It's such a fucking banger.
Yeah.
If you don't know why I love that song so much, well, first off, I gave it away. Second off, go back to our episode last year when we talk about Hard Day's Night and the amazing movie compared to the fucking shit that was Help.
Wow.
It wasn't shit. Calm down. What is your number 5?
My number 5, bringing it back, She Loves You.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
It's
see what
just
I did there?
Yeah, I got it. Because that's those are the lyrics in the song.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
song's fucking, it's like the OG. It really is. I don't have it on mine, which is fucking weird.
But I also feel like if I was to come to you in like 4 days and have you redo your top 5, it might change.
Yeah.
Because it kind of depends on your mood.
So I'm gonna have a couple more drinks today, and
redo the list.
Like 8 p.m. Maybe I'll redo the list, and it'll be fucking. Because She Loves You was my first favorite Beatles song. She Loves You was, what was the German one? Come Gib Deep, something like that. Like
You
I
know
knew
German?
the German. I knew. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is I'll Follow the Sun, which is the first really hippy dippy 60s vibes that they get into.
So because this was from the older stuff. Not older, but
yeah,
I like that's on yours because now that I'm thinking about it, I'll Follow the Sun feels like it should be
later,
more like a 60.
Yeah.
Yes. Smart. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
That was your 4, right?
That was my 4. What's your 4?
My 4. We've talked about it a lot today.
Mm-hmm.
It's Help.
I was gonna say it's Help, isn't it?
It's so fucking good. Like
it's so good.
It's such a banger first track. It's Lennon at his, surprisingly, it's kind of Lennon at his most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Which it's like one of the greatest tortured artists of our generation. He wasn't in our generation, of our history. And
yeah. It's like old Beatles because it's like this up-tempo happy vibe. But if you listen to lyrics, it's not. If you had made it a slower song, you'd be like, oh, something is going on with him. But you have no idea. Like none.
Yeah. Call and answer and all. It's so good. My number 3, I don't know how this song's ever going to be taken off my list. No, I do. I keep saying that. I keep forgetting about the album that we're going to talk about next year, which is just going to basically my entire top 10 is going to change after next year.
Yeah.
But it won't be long is my number 3.
Not on my list either. This is great.
The guitar work and the harmony. So to me, my favorite thing about the Beatles, the guitar work and the harmonies. Lennon doing the "We Won't Be Long" with McCartney screaming the "yeah" in the background. It's just, god damn, it's so fucking good. We're to your 3, right?
Yes, we're to my 3, which is You've Got to Hide Your Love Away, which is amazing. And it's another one of those songs where if you listen, you can hear a little like dirty cracking in Lennon's voice, which goes really well with the song.
Yes.
It's so good. And you've got the tenor and the alto flutes. You've got, again, like new vibes coming out for them.
Which I could see where I love the flute at the end. A lot of the Beatles conversations I've had in my life, I've talked about a couple times. You've got to hide your love away. And there's been a lot of complaints about the flute. Like they're just throwing shit in to throw shit in. I love it. I think it's fucking fantastic. It brings this like Mamas and the Papas vibe to
Yeah.
it. That it, and just the fucking the hey, it's so Bob Dylan. It's so it's there's no note. It's just hey. That's my Bob Dylan impression. Do you
That was
like
good.
it?
That was really good. I thought it was
So-
Bob Dylan.
What's your no? Thank you. What's your number 2?
You know what my number 2 is?
Is it Yesterday?
It's Yesterday.
Is it the most covered song of all time?
I've heard
Let's
that,
cover
which
it
is a
right
lot.
What's your favorite version? Boys to Men, probably, right?
No.
Boys to Men is
Beatles. I don't know. Cover.
no, that's the right answer.
Yeah.
That's the right answer. Let's just Google best rendition of Yesterday and just see what pops up. 5 best covers of Yesterday. Elvis Presley, fuck you.
Ray Charles.
Ray Charles.
In
Okay,
Vogue?
I'm not gonna hit. Billie Eilish
Interesting.
and Aretha. Okay, I would listen to Aretha do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Placido
Marvin
Domingo.
Gaye. I'm down. Okay, so maybe. All right. I didn't expect to see like fucking Marvin Gaye and Aretha on this. Never mind. I'm cool with it.
That's-
Keep covering it.
The
It's
first
all good.
the first thing that comes up in Google for me is the top 50 covers.
Yeah, the top 700 covers
Yesterday.
of Yesterday.
Oh, Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson. That's probably a good one.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, see, now I'm liking it more. My number 2 might be the one song. It is. It's the one song that we both have on our list. My number 2 is "Hide Your Love Away."
It's a good one.
We just talked about it, guys. It's incredible. But it's not as good as my number 1,
Which is?
And I do think that it's going to get beat out someday.
Someday soon.
Maybe next year, but it might not. It might, to this day, might be my favorite Beatles song of all time. And I don't know if it's going to change based on how much I study, but my number 1 favorite Beatles song of all time is still "I Want to Hold Your Hand." I could do an episode a year with you
Just
or you
on
and
that
Eva
song.
or whatever on the brilliance of "I Want to Hold Your
Yeah.
Hand." Yeah. It's one of the more brilliant pop songs ever written, if
Yeah.
not the most brilliant pop song
Sure.
ever written. Rach.
I mean, similarly, my number 1, it's
Twist
hard.
and Shout.
Twist and Shout. It is.
Sorry, I totally stole your thunder.
Oh, no,
but
totally fine.
I love it.
It's
It's just because I know you.
It's because I love Dirty John. And we talked about this was
Sick, dirty,
the
fucked up
last song,
John.
end of the
Yes.
day, like just fucking get it done. 85th take, like he's like, "Ugh," like he sounds
Screaming his goddamn life away.
Ugh,
Yes.
It's so good.
It's perfection.
It
It's
is.
perfection. Who's your favorite Beatle at this point?
I think that's a dumb question, David.
I don't care.
I think I don't know.
Who was your favorite Beatle of the 65 genre? Who was your favorite Beatle of this period?
It's John. It's always John.
So you think it's just always going to be John?
I think so. I think because I am such a lyric head, like I love good writing, and he's just getting better.
He really is. But I'm telling you, McCartney.
He's
really
getting better
starts to
too.
fucking- yeah.
They're both
But,
growing so much.
so last year, Ringo.
Yes.
64 is, to me, I'm all about Ringo. But this year, you can't. Look, Lennon is at full inner struggle.
Yeah.
He's.
You love a tortured artist.
But you know what? Because I don't think it's going to happen much, I'm going McCartney.
Ooh.
This
That's
year
fine.
he's really seriously proving that he is just as good of a songwriter as Lennon. And he's starting to figure shit out, and I really, really like 65 McCartney.
Sure.
He's still in the background. He's not really shoving shit in your face. Let's rank the album so far,
Yeah.
Rach. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 albums to rank.
I have 7. Am I missing something?
We have 7.
Okay.
I had one on there twice. You're forgetting about the Hidden Beatles album. Rachel, what is your 7th favorite?
My 7th favorite will always be my 7th favorite, or my last, which is Beatles
Least.
for Sale. Yeah.
Same. Album sucks.
Yeah.
It doesn't suck.
It doesn't
dumb.
suck. It's just
dumb.
the least
Shouldn't
good.
have done it. Shouldn't have come out. What's your 6?
2nd.
Me too.
Okay.
Okay. Samesies. What's your 5th?
Please Please Me?
So this is where we
change. Okay.
Whoa, this is a pretty big swap.
Okay.
I'm interested because of where Please Please Me is for you. I'm interested to see where Meet the Beatles is for you. Mm-hmm. This is the take that is going to piss half our listeners off.
This is your Meet the Beatles, isn't it?
My 5th favorite album is Rubber Soul.
Oh.
I
really
think that half of Rubber Soul, as much as the Beatles album could be kind of a bit of a, not a mess, but a still trying to figure it out sort of thing, that's Rubber Soul for me.
Interesting.
It is not one of my more favorite Beatles albums.
Okay.
My number 4 is Hard Day's Night. It's got a lot of bangers on it.
Correct.
Lots of bangers. Yeah. Rachel, what's your 4?
My 4 is Hard Day's Night.
Hey, look at us. Who would have thought?
Samesies.
Not me. What's your number 3?
Help.
Samesies.
Samesies. Oh, we have so much in
We have
common.
so much in common.
You want to do a podcast together?
Nope. What's your 2?
Go fuck yourself. Number 2
Right now.
is Rubber Soul.
That's your 2nd favorite. So you love Rubber Soul.
That gives away my number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, this is the hard left turn
Yes.
for them, and this is where they start doing some weird shit, and it's good.
Isn't it good? Norwegian Wood.
Mm-hmm.
My number 2 is Please Please Me. I love old
Interesting.
Beatles. I love old Beatles. I really do.
Same.
But do we have the same number 1?
Meet the Beatles.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy. We had
We have so
3
much
of
in
the
common.
same.
That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty.
We're being
weird.
way too predictable.
I don't like this.
Rachel, after this year of studying, or week
Yeah.
or day or however long you studied,
Couple hours.
where do the Beatles stand for you now?
I mean, I'm falling more in love every day. Every time
Yay.
we dig deeper into their music, I just am seeing how wildly talented they are. I think that from an aerial perspective of like just looking at them as a boy band and everybody's heard all their songs, coming from that to really digging into their evolution. I
Yeah.
mean, they're so talented, and I don't think people really realize what impressive musicians they were.
As an old fucker now, what really sticks
really
to
are.
what really sticks to me that didn't stick to me back then is how hard they worked for their craft.
Yes.
Like
It wasn't just like their managers making them do shit.
no.
It's
Like-
not like forced, like, let's just put out an album to put out an album. Like, every album had really good stuff on it.
And the more and more I study, the more you see like these interviews of people that are just like George never had a guitar not in his hand. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't even go to dinner without him having like a fucking guitar. Not even, it's not a work ethic thing. It's even though they were that famous and they were going through that much shit to just want to play fucking music all day, every day.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
You really can, like, visualize that the music is in their veins.
Yeah.
Like, that has never been more of an appropriate analogy. Like, it's like they need it all the time.
Hey, everybody, that's the Beatles. We're done this year. Join us next year when should I spoil it? When we talk about maybe my favorite album of all time.
Your favorite.
Yeah, it's anybody that tells me that Revolver isn't one of the greatest albums of all time, they can get stabbed in the face with a bazooka. It'll work. Join us
How do you
next week.
stab with a bazooka?
You can. What if it has a
Okay.
bayonet? Join us next week
Sure.
when we do our last quick fire of
Oof.
the year. Rachel, I already know the answer.
That's a good
have
one.
you started studying for this one yet? So no
Yeah.
thoughts yet.
No.
You really have?
It's because there's so many good ones on there on accident because I've already heard them.
For real?
I didn't mean to. Yeah.
Oh, I just didn't.
Yeah.
I thought you just waited till the end of the year to listen to everything. That's kind of what
Well, sometimes.
I'm 60% right.
Sometimes things fall in my lap and I can't avoid them.
We've only got a couple more until the end of the year. Shit. Rach, thanks for joining me and talking about the Beatles.
Yes. Anytime.
I really like doing it. I like them. I like the Beatles.
That's fine.
We love you. Good night and good luck.
Oh, I wanna stay right by your